Hi, I'm Zara Imtiaz. Welcome to Asian Agribiz podcast, bringing you interviews and updates from the animal protein community throughout Asia, from a trusted and dedicated provider of news, information, and market intelligence. Today, MELIYANA is speaking to Ernest Tan about how technology is driving the demand for animal protein. Ernest leads the agribusiness and animal protein subsectors within UOB's Sector Solutions Group, where he determines the strategic direction of these sectors for the bank across its key markets, as well as develops the bank's value proposition for clients in these sectors.
Hi, Ernest. Thank you for being here with us today to communicate your ideas about technology adoption in the animal protein sector.
Hi, afternoon, Meli. Nice to speak to you.
Great. Ernest, digitalization is a growing trend. You know, the meat processing industry has been undergoing significant technological investment in recent years. Adoption of this innovation took on a quicker pace as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic because of lockdowns and ensuing rules, which also drove rapid growth in online marketing. My first question is, what technologies related to digitalization are crucial for the meat processing industry? Why are they necessary?
I think digitalization is quite a catch-all phrase, but I guess some of the technologies that are crucial for the industry to explore adopting would include e-commerce, digital collections and reconciliation tools, perhaps IoT to detect bottlenecks, as well as traceability enablers. So the importance of having an online channel was really highlighted during the movement control and social distancing measures as a result of COVID-19. And during this period, B2B sales were affected as a knock-on effect from the closure of F&B outlets. As such, processing companies which had existing e-commerce channels or were agile enough to roll out their e-commerce strategy quickly actually benefited as online purchases increased during this period. Another form of the digitalization that I mentioned is collections and reconciliation tools. And such tools actually help reduce cash handling and also alleviate the need for manual reconciliation. So for example, UOB introduced a mobile collect solution to Bong Foods in Singapore. And now Bong Food salesmen do not need to carry around stacks of invoices and handle cash. Instead, they present digital invoices via a mobile application, and the customer just scans and pays. And once the payment is made, the finance team actually receives instant notification and the funds are immediately credited into the bank. So that alleviates a lot of the manual reconciliation work that needs to be done. So Internet of Things can also be implemented in processing plants for detection of bottlenecks or problems along the production line. So for example, Singapore Poultry Hub in Singapore is setting up a smart factory that utilizes IoT and robotics, and this is expected to improve productivity by 26%. Finally, adopting traceability technologies is also something that the meat processing industry can explore. So as consumers become more discerning, there is also more scrutiny on the source of food for safety and security reasons. In addition, such traceability will also provide more confidence to the halal certifications in this region. So overall, the potential data harnessed from digitalization can actually help in supply chain planning to become more productive and agile to address consumer patterns as they change, and also have the potential to reduce food waste and become more sustainable.
Interesting to hear about these technologies. And about mobile collect introduced by UOB like Shopee or GoPay?
It is slightly different from GoPay, or rather quite different from GoPay.
Okay.
In essence, it is a mobile app whereby the salesman can generate a QR code on the spot, and the customer can then scan the QR code and make payment immediately.
Okay.
So this payment would then go directly into the customer, into Bong Foods accounts.
Okay, thanks. Ernest, last September you mentioned in an interview with Asian Agribiz that consumers are likely to continue preparing more meals at home. So this would increase acceptance for frozen meat and food. My question is, what related production technologies, in addition to enhanced packaging, that extend product shelf life, must producers invest into ensure quality and safety?
I think besides the regular cold chain as well as freezing or chilling technologies, producers can also explore using natural ingredients as a means to extend shelf life. So I understand that there are several companies which have gotten quite good results by using spices or food extracts as a means to extend shelf life. And such products may actually appeal to consumers because of the fact that they are using natural ingredients.
Okay.
So companies which have reached the appropriate scale may also consider having industrial kitchens, which will then improve the consistency in the quality. So at the same time, these industrial kitchens can employ food safety guidelines and obtain necessary certifications, such as ISO or HACCP, which will then give their customers more comfort.
Mm.
I think finally, as consumer preferences are always evolving, uh, companies can also invest in product innovation so that they can create new SKUs to cater to this changing consumer taste.
Okay. So what kind of investment would these technologies require? Can producers expect fast returns on investment?
That is actually a difficult question. From a financial point of view, I think the investments into these technologies is likely to differ quite widely. So, but I think other forms of investments that the producer need to take into account is time and human resource. So the
Mhm.
effectiveness of adopting such technologies really requires the employees to understand the importance and to buy into these changes. So certain investments like traceability may take time before returns can be seen, especially as a portion of the value creation is intangible in nature.
Interesting.
Want to stay up to date on the latest developments in the animal protein community? Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and go to www.asian-agribiz.com to discover daily industry news, country specific pages, and more. Now back to the show.
Smaller players may not have enough resources to make this technological investment. So, what can smaller players to improve competitiveness and stay profitable? How can they be encouraged to adopt these technologies, Ernest?
I think, as mentioned, the technological landscape is vast, and I feel the adoption of technologies can therefore be in stages. The companies can adopt a near, mid, long-term approach to evaluate which technologies will enhance their operations over these different time frames to determine what they should prioritize. So there are certain technological adoption which at first glance may not drive productivity, such as the reconciliation systems. But at the back of it, the data collected can actually help in better planning and may improve efficiencies over the long run. So at the same time,
Mm.
technological providers are also becoming more cognizant that smaller players may not be able to afford the technology. So they have
Okay.
changed the models in which they offer their solutions. So one model is through the lease or rental model, thus reducing the need for heavy upfront payments for implementation. Another model could be co-sharing, where some small players can co-share these technological solutions or investments. At the
Okay.
same time, larger players along the value chain can also help to encourage adoption by the smaller players through onboarding them on perhaps their supply chain management systems. I think finally, the governments can also encourage adoption of technologies through grants and support schemes for the smaller companies to tap on.
Very encouraging to hear. Ernest, cold chain logistics remain an issue for many countries in Southeast Asia. What do you think must be done, and what must be in place to boost development in cold chain infrastructure?
Actually, on the cold chain infrastructure, it was a bit of a chicken and egg issue where the supply of cold chain was not forthcoming as demand for chilled and frozen food was not high, mainly due to the local preferences for fresh food. But the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly accelerated the move towards chilled and frozen food. So as such, we do actually see processing and logistic companies starting to invest to build additional processing and cold chain capacities. From the governmental level, there's also been more encouragement for the industry to develop their cold chain capabilities. And this is mainly to tackle the food safety and food security issues locally. So as such, while there is still a lack of cold chain infrastructure in Southeast Asia, I'm actually optimistic that this will improve in the coming years.
Okay, great. Your report also mentioned that animal protein is still in a sweet spot despite COVID-19. And while both consumption and production in Asia could contract by 3 to 6%, a gradual recovery will come thereafter. So, what can the animal protein industry expect in 2021?
I think for 2021, our view remains the same, that the overarching theme will be recovery. So first is the recovery from the impact of COVID-19 as economies begin to open up and vaccines get rolled out. And second is also the continued recovery from African swine fever in markets such as China and Vietnam. So overall, we do expect growth in most animal protein segments in the region, including poultry, pork, and seafood.
Mhm.
On top of that, besides the digitalization trend that we talked about earlier, some other themes that we anticipate include the continued consolidation in certain markets. For example, in Vietnam, as the large hog integrators scale up their restocking.
Okay.
At the same time, we expect to see supply chain changes as players may try to shorten their supply chains through local or regional sourcing, or also to diversify their supply chains so that they can be more agile and ensure steady supplies of raw materials. I think the final key theme that we expect in the animal protein industry is really about sustainability. So this is driven by increased demand by consumers as well as other stakeholders. Companies are now expected to be more transparent about their practices while improving their overall sustainability in the operations. With that, we expect sustainability linked financing to also increase as financial institutions play their part to encourage businesses to improve their sustainability practices.
Wonderful. Ernest, thank you so much for coming today and sharing with us about technology adoption. You have provided a lot of information for Asian Agribiz listeners on how to develop the animal protein sector with the current trends. I hope we can speak to you again. Thank you.
Thanks, Melly. It has been my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to another podcast by Asian Agribiz. Don't forget to subscribe to this show on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts.